to expand the Care and Conserve program to include restoration support for low-income customers impacted by sewer backups. And the program is in receipt of the executed agreement, and we're beginning to extend support to customers in need. Next, I'll cover our operational highlights. You advance to slide 18. This highlights the department's progress by the numbers relating our core services and functions for the reporting period. Slide 19 provides a summary of activities relating to our site development division. For the period, 968 permits were issued. And it provides, the slide provides a breakdown for single-family residential, commercial, and multifamily permits issued. The slide also details the number of permits issued by council district as requested. And as you can see, districts 9 and 12 are tied, leading to the number of permits issued. Slide 20 similarly provides a summary of plan reviews completed for the reporting period, as well as by council district, and it appears that District 12 edged out District 9. Advancing to slide 21, this provides an update on DWM's internal metrics. Slide 22 provides the SLAs for the Office of Watershed Protection. The average SLA for the quarter was 88%, which was down from last quarter's 93.5%. The team experienced some challenges in completing residential final inspections and pre-construction inspections for the period, which dampened performance. However, efforts began to recover in September. OCCBS continues to have 100% SLA for the period, and that's slide 23. Slide 24 is Oleo's SLAs for the period was 97.7%. Notable improvements regarding clearing and cleaning of storm drains, hydrant leak repairs, and valve leak repairs. And we're continuing to make the necessary adjustments to teams that support hydrant tasks. And the recent hiring blitzes are helping to fill critical vacancies. Slide 25 provides an update on Oleo service requests. 43% of service requests were relating to sewer collections division, while 57% of service requests were related to water distribution. Next, I'll cover compliance for the department. If you advance to slide 27. Unfortunately, our Cinderella season of zero NPDES violations came to an end for the period. We experienced one violation at our Clear Creek Combined Sewer Control Facility. The violation was due to a fecal exceedance as a result of a manual grab sample collected with a high concentration. The sample collected manually was collected manually due to the sample pump clogging. To address this issue, a new sample pump has been procured. Compliance continues to be a top priority for the department, and a team is focused on accountability and compliance with permit requirements. The next several slides, I'll give updates on our environmental and construction enforcement. The team completed a total of 2,698 inspections. 2,358 sites, roughly 87% were found to be in compliance, while 340 sites, 13% were found to be in non-compliance. 92 stop work orders were issued, 7 citations were issued, 15 court sessions were attended, and 4,558 fines were levied. And as requested during the last quarterly update, the next few slides provide totals of each of the activities that I covered and actions taken by council district for the reporting period. So there's a table on inspections, non-compliance inspections, stop work orders, citations, and court sessions. Slide 34 provides an overview of DWM Stormwater Technical Advisory Committee. We concluded planning efforts in September, and the TAC convened in October and has met monthly. The primary task of the TAC is to develop a post-development stormwater extended detention time policy to address water quality, address flood mitigation across the city, identify potential areas of repetitive flooding, and protective measures. And I will be looking to provide a summary update on the tax findings during my next quarterly at the top of the year. Next, I'll cover our capital improvements program. You advance to slide 36. Our 5-year CIP is $0.83 billion, continues to be comprised of 94 active projects. We're continuing to balance capital investments across our operations to ensure completing upgrades to our most critical assets and to ensure long-term serviceability. And slides 37 through 39 highlights a few notable CIP projects. They're either currently underway or on the immediate horizon, and so notable are the North Fork Storage Tank and Pump Station, our Upper Proctor Creek Capacity Relief Project, phases B and C, our Sewer Group 4 Small Diameter Rehab, which is a part of our consent decree program, and our Entrenchment Creek Water Reclamation Center decommissioning and South River clarifier replacements. In closing, I want to recognize and give a tremendous thanks to the valued men and women of the department for their continued hard work and support in providing water service to the customers of the city this year. And I thank you, City Council members, for your support of the department's operations, projects, and initiatives this year. Subject to your questions, this concludes my quarterly update.
Thank you, Commissioner. You covered an amazing amount of material and very briskly. And we had been joined by Mr. Antonio Lewis. For interested members of the public, Trinity is being resurfaced, making it extremely hard to get to the building. Mr. Juan. Oh, and Ms. Bakhtiari was also hung up by the...
Good morning, Commissioner. I have a couple of three questions. First, off the North Fork project.
Yes.
It says anticipated construction start date Q1 2023. Are we still on track for that?
We're still on track for that. We're waiting for the executed agreement. We are starting pre-planning phases to get ready. We are readying the agreement with GDOT so that we can make use of the land. And, you know, per normal protocol, we'll make sure we get all the notifications out to surrounding citizens and businesses.
Once we break ground, what's the timeline in terms of construction to final delivery?
The project is going to take about 3 years to construct.
And, okay. Next question I had was regarding your staffing levels. As we've talked about in finance, some of the numbers that get presented include vacant positions that are unfunded.
Yes.
I guess I wanted to ask the number that you presented, I think 345 positions, are those all funded, or is there a combination of funded and unfunded positions in that?
So they're all funded.
Okay.
Of that, I think about 180 or so are mission critical, and the balance are the non-mission critical. But yes, they're all fully funded.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. And then finally, cannot remember where that. I guess I'm going to have to come back with that last question because I cannot find it. So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I'll chime back in once I find it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Browning. Starting out with a good thank you again for always providing your quality metrics. And I think maybe we should have a class to teach other departments how to do that. But anyways, I'll start off. We've been very generous. We've not cut off anyone's residential water in over 12 years. So for what I take from the reading through the presentation is we're going to start these when on these 27,000 delinquent accounts? February or?
January 2nd.
No, there's been quite a bit of change in your department at the top. If you could go over again just your new, I know it's not really that new, your AC. Is he still interim? Your deputy commissioners, who's interim, who's not, who's new? If you could just go over the changes for us.
Absolutely. We had an assistant commissioner that joined about a year ago. He was a previous deputy with us some years ago. We poached him from DeKalb County. He was willing to come back. He's got a wealth of knowledge with regard to operations, so that's Assistant Commissioner Reginald Wells. Since last time, we've onboarded a new Deputy Commissioner of Watershed Protection, Alex Mahajer, who I think you've met and heard him speak at previous sessions. He too comes with municipal experience, wealth of engineering experience in both municipal and private sector, and so he stepped into the role that was vacated by former DC Todd Hill. And so there was a departure in Office of Engineering Services. Former Deputy Commissioner Rob Carr is no longer with us. So we have an interim commissioner, Nariman Marai, who's there. He's a structural engineer, wealth of knowledge. He's interim. We're actively recruiting to backfill that position.
Updates. Touching on a little bit that Councilmember Juan asked about the 204 positions that are on hold. What is the reason for holds?
Yeah, we're continuing to right-size the organization. Our primary focus right now, and again, are the mission-critical positions. Those are the positions that are critical to our operational sectors, which are the plants, the linear water, sewer operational areas, areas where we have compliance, such as erosion control, our fog program, flow monitoring program. So those operational groups are top priority. At the same time, we're looking across the department and really doing a deep dive to determine what non-mission critical positions are necessary for the organization. So we're being very careful about how we backfill those positions. So there are still some needs, and where we're doing assessments and we may have some employees who may not be gainfully busy. We're looking at ways to salvage them and look to move them to other areas where there's a need.
And you provided your departures, I think 50-something resignations. Do you perform exit interviews when people depart to try to see why they departed and if you can?
Yep. Yeah, that's part of the process. Again, we got a very competitive jobs market. We definitely try to hold on to talent, but I'll tell you, it's been very challenging to compete with the private sector. So we're doing everything that we can to retain talent, attract talent, and yes, those exit interviews are recorded by our HR department.
Going back to staffing, particularly in inspections, whether it's just scheduled general building inspections or enforcement inspections, where is that staffing level at right now?
They're getting back up to normal capacity. Of course, you know, you get into a period, normally the third and fourth quarter, where folks may have accrued leave. Some are still drilling down on some of their aged accrued leave, so they begin to take time off. But at the same time, we like to make sure that we've got adequate coverage across those groups. So, you know, COVID is still with us. We've had some occurrences with COVID, nothing severe like we've had, but, you know, mainly I think folks are just beginning to take accrued leave, and they had some challenges. But again, we start to see a rebound in September, which is good.
And I believe we brought this up the last quarterly, with particular to enforcement. You know, there's a lot of activity out there. I think my district was actually number one in site development permits. A lot of these aren't good players, and,
Bad
some,
players.
it's legitimate mistakes, and they correct them, and, they move on. But, we've had a number of repeat offenders, so to speak, that I've noticed, and I still see the data where, 340 sites, non-compliance, out of those, only 92 stop work orders, about 27%, and then out of those, only 7 move on to citation. So are you looking to beef up enforcement and hold, especially these repeat offenders,
Yeah.
responsible? As I've had, as you know, because you get my emails, but we've had some sites in the district that I'm sending you all out, 4 or 5 plus times. So what is the game plan there?
Yeah, so per the feedback you gave me last time, I've spoken with the team about doing some refinements to the enforcement process and just ensuring that we don't have those repeat visits and still allowing things to fester. So I think you'll see some improvements during the next quarter. Certainly, we've had that discussion with the enforcement team. They understand how important it is for them to make sure that these sites are being compliant, really, being strong against those that are repeat, but not giving them a lot of slack. Just want to make sure that they get into compliance as quickly as possible.
And last question, I know we exchanged some memos recently about stormwater in most projects. What is the status of those generally? Just because I see the revenues are always exceeding 20% of the projection, so it doesn't seem the money is a problem, but it seems maybe contracts are a problem. So where are we with those contracts and getting more of these projects turned out in a quicker time frame?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we have currently or had 2 contracts. We decided not to renew one of the contracts because of underperformance, so we have 1 contractor.
Those contracts is just with one contractor, right?
We just have one active contractor now. And so, we're supplementing with other available crews internal to try and tackle those areas that are, we get repeat complaints. So we're using all the resources, the contracting resources we can to address those critical sites. We are formulating a new contract for solicitation. I think probably just at the top of the year, you'll see us put that contract out for bid. We'll look to retain 2 to 3 annual contractors that'll be able to have more bandwidth to be able to tackle more sites.
With procurement to get those finalized and
Yep.
have those 2 to 3 contractors in place by summer, or?
Yeah, I would say before summer. We'll look to get I think the request for funding should be on cycle, so we'll put the funds in place first. While we're doing that, we'll get the solicitation package ready for procurement. So I would say, second quarter, we should have the contracts in place.
Work and your team's work, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. I first want to say thank you for the fixing the water main breaks in my district over the week. Thank you for getting your folks out, no matter what time it was at night, it felt like. The float program, thank you for bringing it to the library all week. At the Cleveland Avenue Library, we'll have the float program and helping folks get signed up to it from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so you're in the library more than I was as a kid, so I want to say thank you for identifying us this week as the location for that. I also want to say, lastly, thank you for the job fair at C.T. Martin. That job fair was, it vibrated to my district. It vibrated to my district so much so I had people saying, why didn't you tell us about that one? And I came to you, and we're setting up one right now in January in my district that will be just for watershed. My question to you is similar to what I asked yesterday, is how can I get a list of the funded positions that are open?
It's in your inbox.
Okay. So I
Last
appreciate,
night.
I appreciate you. That's the one thing I remember asking you for yesterday. Thank you so much for just working on the stuff that you're working on in our district. Thank you again.
Thank you for your support.
A lot of my questions have been covered by Mr. Hillis. I'm curious, though, about environmental and construction enforcement updates. Slide 28. So I'm probably missing something, hence the question, but did 15 court activities result in $4,500 in fines? If so, that works out to $303 per, which seems low, assuming some of these involve infractions committed by commercial and construction entities, and I would like to think they get dinged a little bit more than that so as to correct their behavior.
I'll have DC Mahajer
Thank you.
give a little bit of depth on that.
Good morning, Chair
Morning.
and members of the council. Alex Mahajer, Office of the Watershed Protection. Yes, we had several discussions with our staff, the ones that they go out and inspect sites. And they are under instructions that when they encounter 3 cases that they are not in compliance, to go ahead and issue citations. And as we speak, this is in progress. And hopefully we should have favorable answers for you during the next briefings.
And I understand so fines levied, are those exclusive to the courtroom activities?
So the
and don't
fines
cover
are,
your other sort of run-of-the-mill citations that don't end up in court?
so the fines are, they're left up to the court. But I think the maximum fine is $1,000. It's at the court's discretion.
But, I'm sure you understand my concern. I was a front row spectator when a house being remodeled on my street they hired somebody who got to work with his backhoe digging stuff up before the utilities were marked. And so we all went without water for, the rest of the day. And I remember checking in repeatedly with the then commissioner, and basically nothing happened. Now, in my view, that contractor should have been made to yelp a little bit so that this would not happen again. There must be repeat offenders out there.
I think we can take a look at the policy and see how we can affect some change, if there could be a change in the maximum fines that are levied. We'll definitely look into that.
And then finally, in relation to your kind of search to make sure you're right-sized and critical versus non-mission critical, your department relies heavily, and always has because of all the consent decree related work, on outside consultants and contractors. How closely do you look at their criticality? Nice to have as opposed to, well, we have to have this service.
They're critical. Having been on the private side, public side, I've got a good balance of experience. We typically will use those contractors for more complex work. And just the volume of work that it entails, it really, because they're working in multiple sewer sheds, a lot of planning goes into it. You need multiple crews. There's a variety of and complexities of work that's required. So they're needed, and definitely our internal crews and resources step in to help where needed. But the third-party contracting is definitely needed to sustain and help us towards completion of consent decree projects.
During one of my earlier stints as chair, that's when the whole sort of PMT program was first put together, and the committee went through literally every function. It was an exhaustive review. One thing I would encourage you to do that I don't think commissioners do enough of is remind us and the public the extent to which some of these services actually save an awful lot of money through value engineering.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
It's a huge amount, and I'm sure if you go back over 15, 20 years, it's an enormous amount.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, when we get quotes from contractors, that's why it's important for us to have multiple vendors so we can look side by side and see who has the best approach and the best value for the work that we're enlisting them to do. For the larger solicitations and bids, there is, kind of a side-by-side comparison to make sure that we're getting our most bang for our buck so we can, best utilize taxpayer dollars for the infrastructure improvements.
Okay, good, thank you. And then my last question is, given all the work DeKalb County now has in front of it, are they, to what extent are they a competitor for your talent here?
They are. Right now, as far as salaries, out in front is Cobb County. We watch very closely what other agencies are paying for similar jobs and positions. So, yes, DeKalb is a competitor. We've lost some of our staff and resources to DeKalb, and conversely, we've had some folks from DeKalb come to us. So we closely watch that. We want to make sure we've got competitive salaries, that we're paying a fair and equitable wage. So
That's all I have. Anyone else? Mr. Hillis?
Chairman Shook brought up the citation thing. And so it's $1,000 per citation since we're a municipality, but
the max.
most of the time they have multiple violations, citation for each violation. And also another conversation I've had with building code enforcement is if they're very egregious or if they're repeat offenders, not on the first offense, but if you're coming back for the second or third time, you move them to per day violations. Say, hey, you have a day to fix this. If not, coming back tomorrow, issuing another citation, and we're doing it every day until you fix it. So that holds people accountable.
Okay.
And then another thing, just wanted to follow up, and I asked this quite a bit, and I ask it on CEHS because I've brought up the arborist before, but holding up building permitting, when I research cases, it's usually the arborist or site development. So where are we with getting either more staffing there or as DCP has done, and I think code enforcement has also talked about bringing in outside vendors to handle those.
We're doing the same. We're working with HR to, obviously, we want to recruit internal candidates, but we are utilizing our on-call architectural engineering professional services contracts to provide staff and resources as augmentation for site development. So we are looking to be fully staffed first quarter so that we can support the new permitting process that's going to get underway.
Ms. Moon?
Yes, Commissioner, just wanting to commend your entire staff for what you all have done with this float program. I did not want today to end. Commissioner Williams and everyone, the entire staff has just been remarkable in working with our communities and working with the citizens of Atlanta. So again, you all are to be commended for this effort.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll echo that. If there's nothing else, thank you very much for your report, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
All right, no applause. No applause. All right, could you please sound our first reads?
Ordinance 22-0-1901, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $2,500,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves to appropriations and add funds to the CIP Facility Structural and Site Improvements Project and for other purposes. 22-0-1902, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $7,500,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Stormwater Annual Contract Project and for the purposes. 22-0-1903, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $2 million and 0 cents to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Lakewood Park Partnership Project and for the purposes. 22-0-1907, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Series 2021 Water and Wastewater Commercial Paper Notes budget in the amount of $2 million and 0 cents to transfer funds from Series 2021 Water and Wastewater Commercial Paper Notes for appropriations and add funds to the Vehicle and Heavy Equipment Project and for other purposes.
Thank you. We have one second read ordinance, and we need to bring in a substitute. This caption is different, so let me sound that. This is a substitute ordinance by Utilities authorizing the CFO to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $10,100,000 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Program Management Services Team Project and for other purposes. I will make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Second by Mr. Wan. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Substitutes before us. Ms. Martin, good morning, and walk us through this.
Good morning, Councilmember Shutt. Good morning, members of the City Utilities Committee. Happy holidays to you. My name is Kathy Martin, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Administration for the Department of Watershed Management. I was here before you back in September, I believe, talking about the Program Management Services Team, which provides on an as-needed basis the professional program management services to assist the department with our capital improvement program addressing the consent decree regulatory requirements through our Clean Water Atlanta program and other departmental strategic initiatives. The ordinance that you have in front of you is the budget amendment to approve the funding for the first year of the new program management services team after we receive the outcome of the solicitation, which is RFP DWM 2211-123016, which will replace the contract number FC 9838. The substitute includes the money that we will be coming to you asking for an extension on the FC 9838, which expires on January 31st. We're asking for this necessary funding in anticipation of supporting the new award for the additional funding for the upcoming request to extend the current reward until a new contract has been fully executed and a notice to proceed has been received. The due date of the new proposal and solicitation is currently January 31st, 2023. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
And are there questions? How long has the current team been on the job?
This was the end of, when we came to you back in September, that was the end of the 5 years, which is a 3-year base with 2 one-year renewals. So the extension will put them at an additional 6 months.
Well, pursuant to the comments I made to the commissioner earlier, when the time comes to bring the legislation before us for the new hires, I would encourage you to include in a whereas clause, the value that this team usually brings to the table. I mean, we've spent an awful lot of money on the PMT. I don't even want to know how much in aggregate, but also the fact is they have saved us an awful lot of money. So I think it's good for our morale and the public's morale to be reminded of that from time to time.
We can certainly add that.
Motion is to approve on substitute from Mr. Wan, second by Mr. Winston. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the ayes have it, so ordered. Now on to resolutions. 22R 4831 is a resolution by Utilities authorizing the mayor to exercise the first renewal option for the FC indicated, which is an annual contract for water distribution system rehab and improvements with Rockdale Pipeline, Inc., and Integral Municipal Services Corp., a joint venture, on behalf of Watershed for a term of 1 year, effective January 9th of next year through January 8th of 2024, in an amount not to exceed $3 million. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from, et cetera. DC Satterwhite, how are you, and what are we doing here?
Good morning.
Morning.
Shook and council members, and happy holidays. Deputy Commissioner Satterwhite, Office of Linear Infrastructure. We're here for the purpose of this legislation to request renewal for 10469C, annual contract for water distribution system rehabilitation and improvements. This amendment is not to exceed $3 million. This legislation before you is requesting authorization to renew 1 year, the contract for the term of 1 year. And again, not to amend, not to exceed the amount of $3 million. This contract is issued for services needed for the installations of new water mains, fire hydrants, valves, and large meters, as well as general maintenance of the 2,800 miles of piping throughout the city. This amendment will require transfer of the funds from watershed reserves for appropriations to annual contract 10469C for water distribution system and rehabilitation through Rockdale Pipeline. This concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Juan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Satterwhite, the question I have is around funding levels. So when this contract was first let, it looks like we had $5 million in it, and then in 2021, $9 million, then we added another $5.5 million, and then earlier this year, so that was 14 some odd million. 2022, $5 million. So it's steadily kind of going down, and I'm just kind of curious, given the scope of the work, scope of the project, and the need, I'm surprised that to see that trend and not the other direction. Can you speak to that, or?
I think our folks are just working harder and getting more done.
Internally, you mean?
Internally.
So that we don't need, okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? If not, I will move approval. Second by Mr. Hillis. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 7-0, the ayes have it. That concludes our action items. You also see in your packet responses to questions we have previously asked of different committees. It's a wealth of metrics and charts. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, you can do so between now and the next meeting, if there's anything else we need to follow up on. Lastly, in your packet is the scorecard regarding the committee's goals and objectives we had for this year. As you will see, substantial progress was made regarding information that we asked to be kept abreast of in the form of regular reports. You will also see that there are a number of, I think, significant items that, we have yet to get to, and so that would probably be a good starting point for next year's goals and objectives discussion. I would like to close out by thanking erstwhile committee staffers, as always, the law department, and of course, tech support. I'm excited to know we're going to an OnlyFans platform for next year. So I think that's going to be good for our ratings, and you can get premium content not available on Channel 26.
Just a quick follow-up on that, Howard. Are you going to be putting out exclusive content?
I'd like to thank Mr. Hillis for his yeoman's work trying to keep track of me as vice chair of this committee, and I want to just express my excitement for incoming chair, Mr. Winston. So, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned for this year.
I would just, incoming Chair Winston, I'll just let you know that the meeting starts at 10 and not 11.
I'm going to put in legislation to change that. Had you signed up for public comment? Okay, well, you can talk with, okay, you really need to be here timely, but we'll allow it. You have 3 minutes.
How's everyone doing today? My name is Don Thomas. I'm coming to ask for, on behalf of the community, to be a part of the community cable network. This is a concept presentation. My name is Don Thomas. I'm the former Director of Operation for Comcast Lease Access in the state of Delaware, Delaware, LA, and Vegas. From my understanding, there's a lease access. I'm very familiar with the PEG program. There's a lease access program here that I believe my programs that I have been franchising through each one of those cities, I believe will be very effective here. So since coming here now 7 months in Atlanta, I'm trying to find out exactly who will be the person to contact in proceeding in involving with that program. Kind of got a little runaround, so I'm just really trying to find out. They said it was taken over by the city and it was through utility. So I'm really just wanting to present my presentation to who would be the person to talk to.
Okay, on the city side.
Yes, from my understanding, it's owned by the city, it's being ran by the city. The actual station, so what I did is I just purchased a bulk of TV airtime to let the community know the different things that we've already been doing in Atlanta with the community so that we can show the different content that we have, but this process is really done through the city. Again, I've worked through this program plenty of times.
Well, yeah, it sounds like your expertise would be welcome here in a what is typically kind of unstable situation, and that's the state we find ourselves in now. There's a new director who literally just got here and is trying to wrap her head around all things Channel 26 and public access. So if we have your contact information,
Yes.
I'll get that to her.
Yes, I have everything that you need. This is, again, this is just a concept letter. I do have recommendations from the mayor, previous mayor, prior mayor, governor, all of those, but this is just giving you all of my information here.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All right, we'll get back to you. We are adjourned. Thank you.